Hello, this is Christian. I'm the lead developer of Alien Dawn. I'm here in Jessica's office, as you can see, who is the other person that works on this game. And I'm here to talk about Alien Dawn version 1.1, which we are releasing today. Before I get into the specifics of the updates for this game, I wanted to ask, if you support this game, please leave a review on Steam. It's one of the most important things you can do to help us out, and we would appreciate it. The last time that we posted an update, we talked about moving from Unreal 4.2.6 to Unreal 4.2.7, and that has a lot of advantages because Epic has done a lot of upgrades to the engine that allow us to improve performance, but most importantly of all, increase compatibility between different VR headsets because of the integration of OpenXR. And basically what OpenXR is very similar to how in the 90s there were all different types of 3D graphics APIs, and eventually all the big companies in the graphics industry created a standard which was called OpenGL, and then there's obviously DirectX. OpenXR is very similar in that regard. So as a VR developer, one of the most difficult things over the last 7-8 years to deal with is that pretty much every headset manufacturer had their own way of doing things, and so you had to really kind of code every motion controller, every headset in a different way. And it's still sort of like that, but this OpenXR standard in some ways kind of program it once and it works on all the different systems. Moving to this system was going to be inevitable, so we figured we might as well do it now as soon as we can because it's going to be the standard moving forward. Most importantly, most of the people that have been having problems starting the game, that kind of thing, is from some type of incompatibility that this should solve. A few other engine features that come with 4.2.7 is the Oodle texture compression plugin, which essentially allows you to compress the textures but still keep them very high res. This helps with loading times and just generally can speed up the game while still retaining the quality of the textures. Another engine optimization added to 4.2.7 is foveated rendering for RTX GPUs. So this is also another performance benefit that people with those cards will get. So now getting into some of the new gameplay features, we've added grasping hands, which basically what that means is when you grab onto an object and you're holding onto it, your hand will actually lock onto it. If you look at the older versions of the game, if you grabbed an object and you moved the motion controller around, the hand would sort of float around and it just didn't look like you were really holding the object. So adding this feature, I think, is going to go a long way in just making the game feel more real and up to date with more modern VR games. We've also added the ability to track the pose of your hands on the motion controllers. So each individual finger on your hands will now be animated. Currently, this only works on the Vive and Index. There should be an update for Oculus and Windows Mixed Reality, hopefully coming soon. Another aspect of the finger animations and the grasping hands is that the finger bones will conform to whatever object they're grabbing, which will also add to the realism. In the previous version, if you were grabbing onto an object, it just played a generic hand grip animation. Now it's custom for everything that you grab onto, whether it be the wheel of a car, a ladder, or a barrel. We've added recoil to the weapons when you fire them, as well as haptic feedback to the motion controllers when you fire. We also added new custom hand models if you're playing without the full body IK, which I would actually recommend doing for now, as the full body IK system we currently have doesn't work perfectly with the new grasping hands. I would recommend just switching to the hands on their own as opposed to the full body IK. But the IK body will still work, so if you like that, you can keep that. But just for now, I'd recommend switching it for a better experience. So now getting into NPCs and kind of just the world behavior. One of the things, and I know my dad will be very happy about this, he's complained, written me many emails that he gets attacked immediately when the game starts, because basically if the helicopter crashes in an area where there's enemies, they pretty much immediately attack you. That no longer should happen, so you can at least gather some gear now if you did potentially land in a bad spot. Dad, I hope that you appreciate that update. We also added a flickering red light to the helicopter crash so that in case it's dark when you do land, there's a way to kind of see around and pick up the loot in the beginning. Another big issue we ran into quite a bit with the open world is that some of the NPCs and the enemies were not always basically alert or awake. We put a lot of time and work into making sure that the NPCs actually respond when they're supposed to. So the game should actually be quite a bit more, I think, challenging now than it was before. And basically one of the ways that we fixed this was pre-computing the nav mesh. And the nav mesh is basically how the enemy AI is able to navigate the world and figure out where it can and cannot go. In previous versions, we were actually building the nav mesh as you were playing the game, and sometimes the nav mesh wouldn't be getting built fast enough. And so that's why the NPCs would be kind of just standing there because they didn't know where they could or could not go. This was also kind of another advantage to Unreal 4.2.7. We can now pre-compute the whole nav mesh very quickly, which actually saves on processing time while you're playing and makes the enemies far more reliable in terms of their alertness and ability to move through the world. My biggest pet peeve with a VR game is performance. And I know this game obviously has been very difficult to do that because we're creating a huge open world where you can go anywhere you want, anytime, and there's hundreds of enemies, thousands of items, all that kind of stuff. So it takes a lot to get this game running properly. One of the things in this latest version is I personally went through almost hundreds of shaders to optimize almost every shader in the game to get better GPU performance. We also did things like optimize the particle effects to keep the CPU usage down, which was a big issue. And so just overall, we're really hoping that this gives people a really smooth experience so that we can now really start to add important new content and refine the stuff that's already there and just really make it great. I also personally spent a lot of time refining the gripping mechanics with the various motion controllers. I know there's been a lot of issues. It's probably still not perfect, but I think it's definitely trending in the right direction. And I'm much happier with the way it's working, whether you're using the Index or Oculus. The gripping mechanics should be much better now. And finally, we fixed the hair shader for Cameron. So her hair is no longer looking like a bunch of odd squares. This could also mean now that the other characters can have hair. This was a glitch. Basically, the way VR is rendered, it's difficult to do hair, but we figured out a way to make it work. Here you can see now that there's hair in the actual game. Now that we've done the big move to 4.2.7 and OpenXR, we can actually really start to add new content, do things like make the AI better, add more weapons, really want to do weapon attachments, just all the things that people have been asking for and wanting. We can really start to focus on those things now, which we are genuinely excited about. And as I mentioned in the beginning, if you enjoy this project, the best thing you can do to support us is leave a review on Steam. Also, everyone that has been continuing to support us on Patreon, it genuinely helps. And we really appreciate everyone sticking with us as we're going through this journey. I know since the last update a couple months ago, we've been relatively quiet, but I want everyone to know that is following this game that we are spending every moment we possibly can to really make this game what we want it to be. And in our minds, this is still just the beginning and we can't wait to keep going. If you're still watching this to the end, Really appreciate you, and looking forward to talking to you soon. And if you do want to reach out to Jess or I, please join the Discord, and we're happy to talk to you there. And now that this big kind of fundamental update is finished, we should be able to be more active in the community. All right, see ya. And now for the very special part of the video where Jessica and I get to thank all the people who have been supporting us on Patreon throughout the entire development of this game. We literally could not do it without the help of these people. Lofnal, Bad Ash, House of Styles, Justin Styles, Shebnitz, Tay Fun, The Lone Ranger, Jonathan Brisby, Skydart, Baja Crash, Luke Stapleton, Lexi Stara, Inspector Tin, Scully, Peter Kitch, Telethesia, Dean Shipley, Smoppy, Livid Creature, Geek Rocker, Christopher Laxmana, Brandon B., Keith Garrett, Emily Kate Mayer, D-Day, April Riley, Alex, Primate, Anna Edmonds, and Brian Gillespie. Again, thank you so much to all of you, and if you see the potential in the game that we're creating and want to help support us, every bit helps, not just with resources, but also just knowing that you are there supporting us motivates us even more. So, hope you're all doing well, and we'll talk to you again soon.